People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good afternoon, and I hope you're all doing well and safe. Got some things to speak about in relation to Arsenal, so I'm not going to take too much of your time up. We might as well crack on. Before I actually speak about what I wanted to speak about, I'd want to firstly speak about Luke Shaw. Now, again, to paraphrase the comments, the one that's in the headline is he more or less doesn't understand a lot of the criticism beyond the obvious that's coming at Man United's way, because looking at Arsenal, there's nothing there. Apparently, we're not being criticised. Now, stop right there, Luke Shaw. First and foremost, before I speak about Arsenal, if you're comparing the way Arsenal have been in a couple of years, no matter if you're behind Arsenal, above Arsenal, whatever in the table, if you're using Arsenal as a measuring stick to measure your progress or how you're doing in the season, based on how we've been for a long time, more so this season where we've had 3 different managers, you're kind of not going to end up in a good space in the league come May. It's also not exactly aspirational. It's not inspirational. It's also not the talk of someone that plays for Man United. Similar to Arsenal, they're falling off by their own standards. But if you're Man United, you've been the best team in England for many years. You are the biggest team in England. Why the hell are you looking at Arsenal? Arsenal are below you. Arsenal have been drawing 13 games. If you want to be criticised to the same standard, even if I didn't believe that, then you'd have to really ask questions of your mentality. And obviously the common theme between both teams is mediocrity. How many times have you actually finished above this Arsenal team as well? Generally since in the last couple of years, not too many. You play for Man United. The problem, you lot should just be looking above you, looking at City, looking at these clubs there, Liverpool, and wondering why you're not there. Obviously, Arsenal do, to quash that on your head. Arsenal do. What criticism has Arsenal not faced? The only difference is Arteta's come in and the language to a degree has changed. There's still criticism. Mustafi still got killed for his mistake against Chelsea. He recovered well. But it is what it is. We're still getting criticism. It's still highlighted our draws. It's still, how many stats are coming out whenever it's Arsenal? How many teams are far from Liverpool's? But the headline is always how many points Arsenal are away from this team. It's always how Arsenal did this and Arsenal did that. Don't talk nonsense. We're always in the paper whether we're doing right and wrong. So do not speak nonsense. So it's just simply a lie. Luke Shaw, you as an individual that was seen as someone that's going to be Manchester United's left back and the country's left back for the next 10 years. I believed that once upon a time, but you haven't kicked on. Maybe you need to look a bit closer to home, or maybe it's because Pepe, he had a tough time when they last played each other, and Pepe must have still been in his mind, and Pepe's living rent free. But on a serious note, moving on from Luke Shaw and what he's doing, and are you even outstandingly the first choice left back at United? Because that Williams looks like he could put pressure on you, really and truly. Moving forward, away from that. What was we going to speak about now that we've got that one out the way, people? Gabriel from Lille could be... Well, let me start again. Apparently, Everton and Arsenal are interested in Gabriel from Lille, which we knew already. The two clubs could, in the coming weeks, try to finalise a transfer for the summer. PSG have joined the race. Apparently, PSG want him as a sort of replacement to Thiago Silva, who's getting on a bit. Now, we all watched him this season, but since we've been linked, I've been trying to analyse him a bit more. And I recently watched a game against, I believe it was Strasbourg. I've got it recorded on my TV. And what I like about him is he really likes to defend. It could cost him, and at times he needs to manage it, but he's very aggressive. Not in that he's off testosterone, but he likes to step in front of a striker, try and nip the ball. He seems to relish 1v1 situations. He's fairly decent in the air as well, and he's fairly composed with a ball at his feet. I do think there's a lot of work to do, because I do think he sometimes tries to win the ball when he doesn't necessarily need to. But I can see why Arsenal, Everton, PSG have been linked with him. Apparently he can go for 30 million euros. I would be all up for that. I mean, we've got to get him, an Upamecano, or some other centre-half that we've been linked with, in my opinion. There's numerous ones of all different standards, but we might as well. And obviously, we've bought Pepe from Lille. I'd like to think we've got an okay relation with them in relation to getting him. If he was to look at the amount of centre-halves on the books, if I was him, I believe I'd be the first choice at Arsenal, and he should. But I guess just a cherry pick, a reason to go Everton over Arsenal is he might play more football if people didn't believe he'd walk into our team, which I do. PSG is Champions League, it's titles in France, both domestically and, well, all the domestic titles. You're challenging on all fronts and have a good chance of winning them by default. So that could be something, and he might just want to stay in France and things like that. And there could also be interest from other clubs that were not really in the knowledge about people. when he was asked on whether joining Arsenal was a possibility in the future, he says, maybe, I don't know, but I would love to play in the Premier League. So what does that tell you? That tells you someone that doesn't really want to put all their eggs in Arsenal's basket, because he might genuinely want to join Arsenal, but there's probably interest from a lot of clubs domestically in England and abroad, so you don't really want to talk them up. Bit of that is probably respect to Leo. The campaign is currently going. You could imagine that, similar to Pepe and maybe a couple of other players around that side, they must have had words, if a suitable offer comes, this is what I would like to do, sort of thing, in which Gabriel, it seems like in the last 6 months, links have really been intensified. And obviously, I will be fair to Luke Shaw to go back over that. He actually said, no disrespect to Arsenal, because I think they're a fantastic club, but they're not having the greatest of seasons, and it hardly gets mentioned. I find it funny that it's as if Manchester United is the club everybody criticised. So I think everybody gets criticised equally. I'm always going to say Spurs don't. I don't think they do, but come on. So yeah, moving away from that though, people. I mean, hopefully Gabriel is positive on that front. Arteta's had some things to say, and you lot know me, I love to speak about Arteta's business when I can. He has spoken in relation to, which one should we do first? He's spoken about the team generally. He has said, well, in fact, it's more or less about Ozil. In relation to Ozil's poor statistics this season, we know he's barely played, but in terms of goals and assists, there's not really a return. I don't think Ozil has a Premier League assist. I could be wrong. Although he was involved in that one where... Who is it? What game was it? Ozil was involved. I think Luis started it. Ozil, Lacazette, Aubameyang finished it. Was it the game Aubameyang even got sent off? I don't even remember, people. I can't lie. But moving forward, Arteta said in relation to Ozil, he has been unlucky with some of the times that he has put people through and they have not scored. Things like that would have made stats a little bit different. And of course, a lot of that's true, my guy. But it's obvious Ozil is declining. Ozil's peaked already. He's on the decline as a footballer. I do think he's got some use, but it's just because he's not pulling it out at times now, really. Because he's playing football, if we're just honest. He is a luxury. He is a very expensive luxury, and we're really going to need to really move away from him in terms of creativity. I love Ozil. I do think he has a part to play this season, potentially even next season if that's what Arteta wants and due to his contract. But I think we've got to move away from the reliance of him now, because we've tried this experiment. I feel at times Ozil has been unfairly criticised and scapegoated, but a lot of the time he's been misunderstood at Arsenal. Either way, he's been here, been one of the best players of the Emirates era just on ability, giving us great moments. But the experiment is over now. We failed our chance to build around him, Alexis, Santi, and these players. It's gone now. So we need to just move away from that. He can still have a part, but we need to, whether we're going for a modern day sort of creative midfielder, more modern day, less poetry in motion, or we're going to encourage other players to make up the shortfalls creative wise. Because to be honest, the club that we've become, man, I know we've moved away from our values the last couple of years, but in terms of creativity, Wenger ball, all of these sort of things, players okay, I'm not talking about Ozil with the assists and all the stats things Ozil fanboys will come with, but Ozil's skill set, because he's good, it should be a rarity. But in terms of people with a final ball, people able to create and provoke goal scoring opportunities, to a degree, this should be one of the things, like scoring goals, this should be one of the things that is the least of Arsenal's problems, really and truly. And it highlights how much we've steadily declined, not just Ozil, but the whole club, in terms of, we've just not been bringing in the right personnel. We've not reflected enough in hindsight. We've not had enough foresight. It's not Arteta's fault. It's actually not even the players' fault, really. It's more the board. We're playing catch-up. It is the players as well, to a degree, obviously. But he's also said the team can't have the right structures to support him if he doesn't do some of those. Sorry, people, let me start again. I'm moving like I can't read. The team can't have the right structure to support him if he doesn't do some of those non-negotiables. If he does, then the team can afford to have someone like him to make the difference. In some moments, he's come very close to what I'd like to see from him on the field. So he's more or less a luxury player. And you know what? If he's playing, Arteta for me, he's more or less said, he thinks I'm a good player. But at the end of the day, if he's not showing it, then he can't play. If he is, then he can. If he's doing the business, then we can afford the luxury. If he's not, and the team isn't, then we need to remove luxury players, and that might be a reason some of the time Ozil's come out of the side. And I do think when he's called lazy and things like that, it's not true. He just doesn't pull it out enough. And I think my thing is less of his application. It's more that he plays within himself. You want that friction at times, but Ozil's never been that guy. He's spoken in relation to Pepe, really, and he has said, and I've offered some Pepe thoughts yesterday, or today I released a video, he said, he's a very shy boy who had an incredible season last year, but that was a very different style of football with a lot of space, a lot of runs in behind, a lot of freedom. Here it's different. He's surrounded by other top players and he needs to adapt to that. I've seen players with much more experience than Nico come to the Premier League and for 6, 8, 12 months completely fail to underperform. But after that, they come back the following season and become some of the best players in the Premier League. And a lot of that is 100% facts from him. He's spoken in relation to young players, and you can't speak young players at Arsenal and not speak about Martinelli. He has said, I love working with young players when I see the potential and the hunger in their eyes to be the best. I can't stop working with them because it's a joy. When you feel that energy, that's what you want, that love for what they do. And that's what I'm getting from these players. And specifically in relation to Martinelli, the better you do, the more you have to digest what people think about you. He has to think, now opponents know me better, the spaces are smaller, I'm going to have more attention. I want to do what I was doing 3 weeks ago, but now it's not happening. And I always tell you that, people, you become a marked man. They know what you're doing. They could already clock that he likes to play on the left and coming off that right, so they're going to double up against him when he tries to cut in, or two men are going to follow him down the flanks. These are the sort of things. And I've said it before in regards to the fans. Right now, Martinelli's at the honeymoon period where he can do no wrong, more or less, people. When he's not played well, like when he played on the right, obviously we disrupted his balance, but it's not really highlighted. And he's still a young player, we still need to take time. But sooner or later, and it's not his fault, people aren't going to have that patience, because people build people up and tear them down by the same token. Because there is one thing I've noticed, Martinelli's youthful exuberance can cost him. You look back months ago when he gave away that penalty against Liverpool, different circumstances, different things are said. And I do think his overall gameplay is good, but you want to see it improve a bit more. Martinelli's a bad boy footballer. He's going to be a star. And yeah, man, he's a young player. All I want is that we take our time with him. Every good game he has, we encourage him. Every bad game, we learn from it. We highlight what he did wrong, but we recognise he's a young man. He will get there, but he's not going to be that player of tomorrow. I don't want to, I don't want to say I don't want to overrate him, but I don't think any footballer in world football is better than him other than Lionel Messi. In fact, he's better than Lionel Messi because, yeah, he's just better than Lionel Messi. I'm joking, people. He's not better than Lionel Messi. But on a serious note, let's just take time with the young guy. He's been a breath of fresh air, and it just, for me, I'm happy because he's come from humble beginnings. Arguably, his signing had the least of expectations because he was the least known. He's hit the ground running. It shows what you can do when you scout properly. He was bought for 6 million. He's one of the best teenagers in the world. And where did he come from? Do you see what I'm saying? And it just highlights, if you play well, you do your thing, you will play games. His age, we highlight his age, but in terms of consistent performance right now, it's irrelevant. Because when you name who's the most consistent player so far, I'm screaming Leno, I'm screaming Aubameyang, I'm screaming Pepe, and then you're going to probably say, you're going to say Martinelli. Even look at, it's testament that he's come from playing in Brazil, and there's a reliance of sorts for him to get goals. If you remove Aubameyang's goals, then he's the top goal scorer, forgive me if I'm wrong. Or he looks like the only one on the field that is going to provoke a goal scoring situation or make something happen in that regards, people. So that's what it is. Moving on, and finally, this is all nonsense. It's funny how these things can be nonsense and then actually happen. Arteta's already spoken about reshaping his squad. Apparently, according to 90-Minute Football, Leicester want Kieran Tierney if Ben Chilwell leaves, with the Fox ready to pay 25 million. Now, that story rates itself. Obviously, Rodgers and Tierney have worked with each other. It would be one left back in, one out. Obviously, Arsenal, he's had an injury hit period. What, did we not spend £25 million for him? Arsenal might think, yo, let's go get our money back and do something else. Do you get what I'm saying? We'll never know. Really, I don't buy it, because apparently, everyone in the knew in Celtic he was a decent player, but apparently we was watching him for a number of years. Why? And he's still young, and he's a decent player, and you've heard Arteta's been working with him. Why would we want to sell him and things like that? And we're not going to make no bread, really. If Leicester do want him, then let's, let's talk about Telemans, let's talk about Maddison, let's actually talk about Chilwell, let's talk about all these other players that Arsenal can't afford and are not getting before we do any of them things there. But on that note, though, I've got nothing more to say. So, yeah, man, the Chilwell thing is nonsense. Is what it is. On that note, though, DG, I'm out.